Oh, you know what? I think you guys you probably don't have the video full screen. I can tell by the way people are sitting. So, flowered shirt, I don't know what your name is, sorry. You're kind of cut in half. And then there's a little bit of room to the right of you on your left, the gray hoodie.
Swear, this is what they're seeing. Are you seeing the whole thing?
I'm seeing the whole thing on one screen, but with a broadcast screen is not. So the broadcast screen should be, yeah, what you're seeing right now from me should be the broadcast screen.
Okay.
You're pretty good. You know, it's good enough.
Good enough.
How's that sound?
Good enough.
Good enough. All right. Cool. All right. So, yeah, anybody who is watching this on YouTube, who's watching this live, just to recap what this is an interview of sorts with the photography class, the portfolio class, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The portfolio class from Poly San Luis Obispo, my alma mater. And Skyy Bergman, who's over there wandering in and out of frame, is my former professor, always my favorite professor. And are you chair still, or did you?
Oh, thank God, no.
Okay, I thought former chair. I know you did that for a while. I thought you were out of that. No. I haven't been down there in so long now. It's crazy. It's been too long. So I've got a list of questions from you guys that you sent me, which I organized into kind of grouping them together so we can talk about reasonably similar topics at once. And we're kind of set up with that. That's basically what we're going to do. I'm going to reframe you guys just a little bit on this end. If we switch off of the camera, it won't work, but hopefully this will stick around because you're still off a little bit. You're like split off to the side. I don't know how that's possible. Do you see? Oh yeah, there you go. Make it easy. Just rotate the camera. There you go. Aha! Look at that. That's a lot easier than me doing it. Perfect. All right. So before we go into the questions, why don't you guys tell me a little bit about, introduce yourselves. Tell me who you are, what you're doing, what you want to do, that sort of thing. I know we don't have all the time in the world, but let's hear. Here we are. Just starting in the front row.
Ian, why don't you go first?
Where am I? Oh, hello.
Hello.
I'm Ian.
Hi, Ian.
I'm a adventure photographer. I do a lot of sport stuff, focusing mostly on rock climbing right now.
Nice.
And I'm kind of hoping to transition into like big mountain skiing and kind of like working some of the same like photo jobs that people like Jimmy Chin, Chris Burkhardt do. So stuff like that.
Cool.
Really to like trying to document athletes in their natural element. So
nice. I like it. Very cool. Right on.
This is good practice for them.
Hi, my name is Gabby Pajo. I'm a third-year photo student here at Cal Poly, and I enjoy capturing the transformative moments that we experience. So for me, I like doing events and capturing the transition between high school to college. I'm heavily involved with the orientation programs here on campus, so I kind of morphed my love for photography and my love for orientation kind of together.
Okay, awesome. Very good. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Everett Fitzpatrick. I'm an event photographer. I work for Coachella and FYF and like that kind of stuff.
Right on.
So I like working a lot with musicians. I love documenting live music when artists are, giving their most in their most, exposed moments. They're sharing it with thousands of people. So I love documenting that, and I love documenting the fans' love for those artists.
Okay, very cool. Right on.
Hey, I'm Morgan.
Hi, Morgan.
Am I on? Okay. I like to shoot two different things. I do a lot of abstract work, but more recently I've been shooting myself, kind of documenting my life and my body and how that's going to change over time.
All right, very good.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Robin.
Hi, Robin.
I'm a photographer and I'm a senior, so I'm about to leave here in a couple weeks.
All right.
I'm thinking about starting my own business and kind of trying to travel while doing that. So maybe weddings, we'll see. Leaving it open for myself, but yeah.
All right. What do you mostly like to shoot now?
Right now, portraits. I've been doing a lot of senior portraits. I like the aspect of more personal portraits because you get to see a small part of the person. I don't like as much setup things because it's not as personal, so I like the personal side.
Okay, great.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Simone. I am also a senior, and I'm actually not really going into photography after graduation, but I am gonna study museum studies at San Francisco State. So I still want to like work with art and like work on the museum curriculum and like making education more accessible
Right
there.
on. Cool. Very good.
Hi, my name is Rosie. I don't know. Am I on the screen? I'm a storyteller. I like to capture, I like to experiment with female sexuality and culture, and kind of go with like photojournalism in that sense, and feature the. I'm sorry, like the delays, like, like messing with me. Like feature culture and tell like story and travel and do that.
Okay.
I don't know where I am. Hi, I'm Bianca. I am a documentary photographer, and I like to capture the tiny relationships and like interactions between people.
Very nice. I like it. And
Two more.
two more. All right.
Yeah.
Is my face on?
I know it's a bit of this. You're in. You're good. You're there.
My name is Roslyn. I like shooting street photography and like environmental portraits of people that I meet in public.
Very cool. Very spontaneous.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Sarin, and I enjoy creating playful narratives that focus on the interaction between the person and their environment and playing with color and shape and light and things like that.
Cool. Sounds good. All righty. Very good. Well, thank you, everybody. That's helpful to put a little name to the face. Some of the names came up and I went, oh, yeah, I remember that question. And then some of you, just the question or what you were talking about you like to do. I'm going, oh, I know exactly which question is yours. So very good. Well, this is going to be fun. There's an empty seat now in the front. What happened? Who did we lose?
I'll get something.
Okay.
What's that?
He'll be back.
He'll be back. Okay. All right. Well, then was that Ian?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was Ian. Okay. Well, his question's up first, so I guess I want his first. Then I'm going to change up the order. Let's see here. Well, I kind of wanted to start with that because that was a good flow. Tell him to hurry up and get back. There he is.
Ian,
I'm going to actually.
with your questions.
Okay, cool.
Hold on, I got to turn on my air conditioning. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully that sound isn't too loud. Is that okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's getting too hot in here already. It's warm out there today. So, all right. So I took your questions and I grouped them into categories, and I'll read the questions that I've got in that category together and kind of answer them somewhat together. There's obviously some overlap, some interchange between them. And so the five I think that I got variety of work with Ian and Hannah's questions, commercial work with Everett, Roslyn's, and Simone's questions, one video question from Jordan, one live question from Robin, although they kind of go together, but I'll still separate them out. And then a bunch of questions about personal work from Rosie, Morgan, Elvis, and Gabby, and then a local work question from Alyssa. So how does that sound? Like a nice grouping?
Yeah.
All right. So first up, Ian's and Hannah. So Ian said, how do you balance so many different styles of photography? From your website, I saw just about all disciplines of photography in one place. For example, sports, landscapes, wildlife, commercial, etc. And then Hannah says, how do you keep up with doing so many different lines of work? So very much together there. The reason that I do so many different types of things is, quite frankly, because I'm a little ADD and I'd be totally bored if I did one thing all the time. That is really what it comes down to. I know that I could be a more financially successful photographer if I picked one or two things. Let's say I decided I was going to be a wedding photographer and I just did that and I focused my entire business on that. I would probably make more money, but it's not all about the money. There's other ways to make money, and there's obviously other ways to be happy, and that is not my end goal, to do one specific type of photography. To me, that just gets too boring, and that's me. And there's no knock at all against people who do that. Some of my best friends are just phenomenal, amazing wedding photographers, and they are that because they do it. That's what they do. They really focus on that, and it's incredible for them. And they love it. They love it. They've been doing it for 20 years, 30 years, and they approach every wedding as if it was their first, most dynamic, exciting thing they've ever done in their life. They absolutely have a huge passion for it. I have a huge passion for a lot of different aspects of photography, and if I ever said, okay, I'm only going to do, I don't know, let's say portraits, and I'm never going to do any commercial type work, or I'm never going to do any landscape work, I'd get bored of that. I just would. I like doing all the different things. So that makes me happy, but also it helps me, I feel that it helps me to be better at the other aspects, right? If I'm shooting, if I shoot a portrait today and then I do, I don't know, some commercial project tomorrow, and there's people in that commercial project, well, it's not a portrait per se, but there's people in it. And so now I'm looking at the people in the shot, and I have all the experience of shooting individual portraits in the back of my head going, okay, well, the lighting could be a little better like this. Let's pose you a little bit differently. Whereas if I didn't really do any portraiture, then when I was doing a commercial work and there was a person there, I might go, I don't know, just stand there and look pretty. So having all those different things under my belt, I feel helps make me a stronger photographer all around. So again, maybe not as financially successful as I could be that way, but definitely more personally fulfilled. And I enjoy the work that I do more that way. And that's just kind of the way it's been for me. It's always been that way.
I got tired looking at your website and all the things that you do. It made me feel like I was standing still.
It's, don't let it fool you. It's not like the website was all pictures that I took in the last 12 months. There's a lot of stuff on there that's got a few years on it for sure. You don't take down some of your best work. There's no reason to do it, or some of your favorite shots. There's no reason to do it. But as long as they're still good, obviously. But having that variety in there, it does keep me busy, but it keeps me happy, keeps me kind of going, I guess. That's a good way to put it. So it kind of answers both of those questions together. As far as the balance, I guess, there's no particular approach to the balance. It's not like I never say, oh, I've done too many portraits, I have to go do this. I do the work that comes in. I guess if there's any lack in the balance, that would be more into the personal projects. And that's coming up towards the end here. But if I feel like I'm not doing enough of something, or if I'm not getting paid to do things, like I don't get hired to do landscape photography. I don't get hired to do travel photography. I've sold some stuff from doing that, but no one ever says, hey, here's $20,000. Will you go fly to Tokyo and take a bunch of pictures for me? Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great, but it doesn't usually happen that way. So a lot of that type of work is personal work. Maybe it's personal that I will try to sell, but I am doing that to help my balance in, okay, I've been focusing too much on this. I want to maybe do some of that now. But that's about the extent of how that goes. So any questions? End each one of these, any questions? Any questions about that or expanding on that at all? A bunch of shaking nose. Okay. Alrighty. Well, that was easy. Then we'll move on to commercial. All right, commercial's got 3. I guess I'll read through all of them and then see how much it overlaps. So Everett says, hello, Joseph. Do you prefer photographing musicians on stage or taking portraits of them off stage? I saw that you were commissioned by Apple for various shoots, and how did that relationship come about? Actually, I'll go ahead and do that one first. So the second part of that, the Apple thing. So I did do some commissioned work for Apple, but I used to be an employee at Apple. I was working there until 2009. So a lot of the work that is individual musician portraits was done while I was there. So that was just part of the GarageBand project. If you remember that, the GarageBand had this whole thing about learning instruments, learning how to play a song, learning how to play an instrument, and you would learn from that musician. So Colby Calais would teach you how to sing one of her songs, and it was a really cool project. But I went along to photograph to do the still photography on a lot of those. And then after that was when I got involved with Seal. I know there's questions about that, the next question. So let me read the next question because it kind of ties together. Next one is from Roslyn, and it says, my question is, how were you able to connect with Seal and get the job shooting his Soul tour? Did moving to LA help you get in contact with more celebrities? So I'll come back to that second part. But when I met Seal just through a mutual colleague at Apple who introduced us, who had been friends with him for years. Turns out Seal's a really big photography buff, so we actually became friends years and years ago. Long before I even left Apple, we'd become friends. And then when I did leave Apple, I had called him up. We'd always talked about, wouldn't it be cool if I could go on tour with you and shoot? And that ended up being what happened. When I left Apple, that was one of the first things that I did, was I went on a 5-week European tour with him, which was a blast. But to the question of how I'd prefer, okay, so there's the Apple connection. So the Apple connection was while I was there shooting the portraits. The live events with Seal was afterwards, and then Apple did hire me to shoot, what was his name? I always forget him. Whatever, some big, huge singer who I'm not particularly fond of. I'm not a huge fan of. Went and shot him as well. So there's been a few of those live performance things that I've done. As far as what I prefer, they're totally different things, totally different approaches. Shooting a live show was really, really fun, really cool and exciting and challenging. And shooting the same show basically almost every night, well, probably 3 or 4 nights a week for 5 weeks, whatever it was. How many? 26 shows, I think, that I did on that tour. I think it was. In the beginning, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be so bored by the end of this. But it was quite the opposite, because every show is a different location. First of all, there's only one city that we did the same venue twice, and that was because it was a really small venue. Everyone was different, so everyone had its own challenges as far as the lighting, the positioning, where I could go, where I could get to, the access that I had. And I had full access. I could go anywhere. It wasn't like the press photographers who had a small area they could be in for only 3 songs and then they got booted out. I had carte blanche access. In some cities, was it Madrid? No, somewhere in Spain, I think it was. There was a catwalk that I was able to get up, and I'm above the crowd, like 200 feet or something above the crowd, looking down. The last thing you want to do is drop your camera. That would be bad. And it was one of these, like, oh, wow, I have this access to do this. I could go absolutely anywhere to get these pictures. So each one was a totally different challenge, a real challenge to just explore and take the most out of that environment, but then also to make pictures that didn't look the same as the ones I got the night before. Trying to find what's different. If you get a close-up, tight shot of the artist singing a song and it's always the same expression every time, then who cares where you are? Every picture's basically the same. But being able to look at every environment, every venue, and go, okay, what can I do here that I haven't done in any of the 20 shows before this? That became really cool. That became one of the most exciting parts of that. So shooting the same show every night for many, many nights in a row, I thought it was going to get boring. It was the exact opposite of that. And as far as whether it's more fun or I enjoy more shooting that or them in person, they're just two completely different things. I don't know that there's one I prefer over the other. It's certainly less work doing one in person. It's a lot of work huffing your gear around for a couple hours for a show like that and climbing up ladders and doing everything else, and then having to crank out the photos that night or first thing in the next morning so they could go up online, up on their webpage and whatever else they were for. That was a lot of work. But it was a great time. It was fun, but a lot of work. So just two totally different things.
When you did that, just to interject, you also had access to the family, and you were photographing them all the time. It wasn't just the
Actually, not really. So the family access was before the tour started. It was I did some stuff with the whole family in New York which was actually a test shoot when his management company brought me in for a test just to kind of see how things would go, make sure I got along with the crew and everything else. And then I had access to the family as well. But the family wasn't on tour with us. So it was just him, and he would leave. He left a couple times to go back and visit family, and I didn't go with him for that. But there was a lot less behind the scenes than I expected. It was actually one of the big surprises for me when I got there, first day on the tour, and I get there and I'm talking about all the stuff I want to do on the tour bus and behind the scenes, and manager says, no, we don't want you doing any of that. We just want you shooting them on stage. Wait, what? Really? Really? So that was a big surprise. So I actually didn't have all that access afterwards. They weren't there and they didn't want it. But beforehand, like I said, when I did the one in New York there, we had some family access, and that was pretty fun. That was cool to be able to do. Let's see here. So that's then the last part of Roslyn's question is, did moving to Los Angeles help you get in contact with more celebrities? Great question. I thought it would, especially since I had the contacts there already, but it really didn't. And I ended up moving out of LA after just a year for a variety of reasons, but there was no real compelling reason for me to stay. And granted, I only gave it a year. It's not like it was 10 years in and I'm going, all right, it's time to move on. After a year, I didn't feel like I was getting any work that I wouldn't have gotten had I stayed in LA. I think I looked back at it and decided that it was something like $2,000 worth of work over the entire year that I got because I was in LA that I wouldn't have gotten had I not been there. And considering the insane cost of rent where I was living and everything else, it just didn't make sense. I was like, you know what, I don't need to be here for this. So I moved on from there. But no, it's not like just because you live in LA, you're going to start running into celebrities and becoming their besties. Okay, and then Simone said, what is the hardest part about your job as a commercial photographer? Also, what made you want to start teaching? Okay, this is very different. So, okay, what made you want to start teaching workshops, especially places like Oaxaca, and how do you attract participants? Okay, so hardest part about commercial photography is just getting the clients. That's the hardest part. People don't want to spend any money. People come to you with these grand ideas and they show you samples of work from big commercial brands and go, I want a picture that looks like this, or I want a campaign that looks like this. And you go, great. And you're thinking in your head, we're talking $20,000 to $50,000 easy. And they go, I got $600. What can you do? Yeah, happens all the time. So it's, I've actually changed how I do business in that way. I now have a basic pricing structure on my website. Essentially this is where it's starting at, and it has helped to weed out the people coming in the door with a couple $100 in their pocket thinking they're going to get a couple $1,000 shoot. So that's been very beneficial. And there's a lot of discussion about whether you should or shouldn't put your pricing out. I didn't for the longest time, and I had to deal with that a lot. Now I have fewer conversations, but more of those conversations turn into paid work, as opposed to the ones where I waste an hour of my time only to find out that they've got caviar dreams and a peanut butter budget. So that's it helps. What's that?
That's a good way to put it.
Well, it is true. As far as what made me want to start teaching, I've been doing education for a long time. Even when I was in school there, when I was sitting where you were sitting, I ended up doing some work with a software company, teaching in the school, doing lectures in the school about image-related apps, image-related software. This is going back to the late 90s, so it's a long, long time ago. But I would stand there and talk to other fellow students about these creative apps that were coming out and these things you could do in Photoshop and so on. And I just really ended up loving that interaction, that process of being up there and teaching. And it's something that I've done essentially since then. I have a whole website dedicated to education. I've worked with students in classrooms around the world, gone with younger students, grade school students, gone all over Asia, working with private schools there, teaching kids photography or teaching them digital storytelling and working on programs like that. And so doing workshops is just a natural progression of that. Workshops are a lot of work to put together. I did a couple several years ago and then kind of stopped doing it just because it was too much work and for the amount of profit coming in. But then the Oaxaca one specifically came up just because a photographer friend introduced myself with Eric Mindling. Eric is my partner in the Oaxaca project. And Eric himself is a phenomenal photographer, but that's not, or historically hasn't been, his career. He has been running a cultural tourism business in Oaxaca for 25 years. And he does tours on things like textiles and pottery and learning about the rich history and the culture of the area. And so a mutual friend of ours introduced us, and we were sitting there having beers talking about what we do, and came up with this idea of what if we did a workshop that was a combination cultural tourism / photography workshop. And that was how the concept of it was born. And then that was a couple of years ago, and we did the first one at the beginning of this year. It was supposed to be the beginning of the year before, of 2016, but didn't happen. So we did it in the beginning of this year. It was super successful. We had a blast, made a reasonable amount of money on it, and decided we got to do this again. And so the next one's coming up in October, and we're currently selling seats for that. So that's how that kind of evolved into it. It's a lot of work. I have friends who do workshops, but they're essentially contracted by another company who does all the back end work, and they just get paid a fixed fee for doing the workshop, which is great if you can do that. He doesn't have to do any of the back end work, but obviously if you can do the back end work, then you get to keep more of the profits. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I just enjoy it, and it's an excuse to go somewhere cool, meet new people, talk about something I love talking about, photography. I get to make pictures of my own, super cool, and have a good time. And you get paid for it too, so it's not too bad. It's good work if you can get it. So that's it for that one. Any questions along those lines? Anything evolving off of that?
How do you find I think part of the question was, how do you find the participants for those trips?
Right. Social media is huge for that. I've been growing my social media following for a long time, and it really isn't huge. I really do not have a big social media following, like 5,000 here, 5,000 there. It's not, you look at some of these names like Trey Ratcliffe, who's got 1 million followers, and I pine for that. I wish I had that. Then I could sell at a workshop in a minute. But I'm working on it, working on growing that social media platform, but I haven't found the magic recipe to make it happen really quickly, short of buying followers from India, but then they don't generally come on your workshops. So but it is really about social media, word of mouth, going on to podcasts. I do a lot of podcasts. I host a podcast. I'm also a guest on podcasts. So take those opportunities to talk about workshops that are coming up. That's always fun. My own show, my Photo Moment show on YouTube, building up that YouTube following has been the latest way to do that, and that's growing nicely. And being able to use that as the platform to promote it as well. So having those platforms to promote really helped tremendously. I've got my PhotoApps.expert website with the social media following there, as well as a newsletter on there. And that's somewhere I can blast it out to. So it's a lot of different ways. There's no one way to do it. You could pay somebody else to do it. You could hire someone to market it, or you could buy ads on Facebook or things like that. But I've never found those ads to be particularly beneficial, so I tend to shy away from them. That's about it. Any follow-ups? You guys are so quiet.
Can you talk about a little bit, I mean, you mentioned the photo apps. Can you talk a little bit about what happened because you were the aperture expert for this student, and do all of you know what aperture was? And that Adobe just decided one day we're not going to keep doing aperture. Can you talk a little bit about how you made the transition from that?
Sure.
When you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So Apple, not Adobe. So when I worked at Apple,
Sorry, yeah.
when I was working at Apple, that was when Aperture was developed and released, and it was a product that I was very heavily involved with. And in 2009, when I left Apple, I didn't start it right away, but it was sometime within, I don't know, 6 or 9 months or so, I launched this website called Aperture Expert. And the whole idea was that it was a resource for Aperture users. There was tips and forums and ebooks. At the time, it was kind of pre-video, so we were doing ebooks. Eventually did video training. And that became a very successful little business. It kind of quickly became the world's #1 website for Aperture users, which was kind of an awesome thing. And I guess it's been 3 years now or so, maybe 4. It seems like it was yesterday, but I know it's been a while. Apple killed Aperture, which was very tragic. So there was never a major update from Aperture from when I left. Oh, no, that's not true. There was Aperture 3 came out right after I left, and then there was no major update after that ever. And so I did as much teaching as I possibly could on it and kind of ran out of things to talk about, but kept nurturing it along, waiting for that next release. But then what happened was Apple decided to kill it. So when they killed it, the website Aperture Expert clearly no longer had a really relevant space in the industry, right? There is no more Aperture. I mean, it exists, but it's not being developed. It's not being worked on. And so I had to figure out what to do with the site next. What first happened was it evolved into the Photos Expert, because the app Photos was supposed to replace Aperture, and it just, now 3 or 4 years in, whatever it is, it's still nowhere near a replacement for Aperture. It's getting better, but it still is not, and I don't think it ever will truly be. And after about a year of that site existing and doing as much training as I possibly could on Photos, which is a very small, simple app, especially when it first launched, I kind of ran out of things to say and do, and Apple wasn't doing anything more with it fast enough to support what I was doing. And so I decided that the site had to pivot again. And so it pivoted that time into Photo Apps Expert. So it's photoapps.expert, and it is now a site that is for all photography related apps. It can be on any platform, Mac, Windows, iOS, Android, doesn't matter. And as long as it's photo related, it's fair game. And while this means that it's not as specialized, it's kind of like the specializing in photography thing. The site was more successful when it was focused on Aperture. Just like I could probably be more financially successful if I focused on one type of photography. Same idea, but now it's on all these different types of apps. And so the readership is good. It's certainly good. It's better than it was before, but not. It's never has skyrocketed. And I know that the site could be better if we had a much bigger team working on it, or we could really focus on just 1 or 2 apps. But I decided that I'm never putting myself in a position there again where I am at the whim of a company deciding to cancel a product and erasing an entire huge chunk of my livelihood overnight. So this way, any app can go, any app can come, and it's not going to affect the site much at all. So that was how it evolved into where it is today, and it's still doing well. And I'm always changing it, tweaking it, trying to find a better way to do things on there. We're starting to do more video tips again on there, which are really popular. So it's all about figuring out the way to get it to grow and to get new people on there.
And how did you get hooked in with Lynda.com?
Okay, so Lynda, when I first left Apple, they called me and asked if I would do some classes for them. And it's kind of a funny story because they went through the financial model of how you get paid, and it was so convoluted and complicated, and ultimately they couldn't tell me how much money I would make at all. They couldn't even guess. They couldn't say, okay, you'll make $1 a month or $100,000 a month. Like they couldn't, no ballpark, nothing. And I had a really hard time with that. When you're asking me to put a lot of time and effort into building this, and you can't tell me how much money I'm going to make. I think there was a small upfront payout, and that was it. And then you might not never make another nickel, or you might make a ton of money, but there's no way to tell. And I really wasn't too keen on that. And then another company approached me called Video to Brain, who, instead of having a subscription model, they had a per sale. They just sold the video kit model. And for everyone that sold, I made, I don't know, call it $50 or whatever it was. And so I thought, okay, well, that's math that I can do. Right? If I sell 100 copies, it's $50. Okay, I can do that, right? I'm in. And so I started doing work for them, and I did a bunch of aperture courses. I did a photography 101 course, kind of a fundamentals of photography, and it was quite successful. It was a lot of fun. And then Linda bought Video to Brain. And so I became a Video to Brain. I became a Lyndacom author overnight. And when I first got the news, I was actually a little bit upset about this. I'm like, this is not the direction that I wanted to go. But then I got my first royalty check from Linda, and I was making a lot more money from them than I was from Video to Brain. So I'm all in. So I was happy with that. And then the relationship from there just grew and grew. I've done quite a few courses now for Linda exclusively. I'm working on a course right now that I'm actually completely self-producing. It's a training on the GH5 camera, so the new Lumix camera, and I'm self-producing that. It's being shot in the studio here outside of this room, and that is on a whole different revenue share model. I'll make more money on it because I'm self-producing it, but of course I have to upfront all the cash to produce it. So it's a whole different way of doing things, but really exciting. And I have, I don't know, probably maybe 10. I think there's maybe 10 courses on there right now, and probably 6 of those are all live action and fairly new within the last year, new courses. And every year we do add one or two more courses, but now that I'm self-producing, I can do even more than that, which is great. So it's a super fun company to work with. I love the people there, absolutely love working with them. I wish that they were producing, because it's a blast working with them. Either I go down to their studios in Carpinteria, or they've sent their crew up here before, or I've met their crew in other parts of the country, and we've spent a week producing a course. And it's just really rewarding, really fun, great people to work with, and then you make some money doing it too. So, but now I'm self-producing mainly for schedule reasons, but and I make more money in theory on the end. We'll see what actually happens. All right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Next one, video. This is from Jordan. Jordan says, why do you think video has become so important for the visual industry / photographers, and what do you think is the future for photographic stills and artists that work in that medium? Are visual artists, photographers, videographers made better by having to do quote unquote everything, photo, video, etc., or can they be overwhelmed creatively by having to be all things to all people? So I think that being all things to all people is a different thought than doing both photo and video. Right? That's not necessarily trying to be all things to all people. Doing 30 different types of photography is being all things to all people, but being able to offer both still and moving image solutions to your customers' challenges, problems, whatever it is they need, is a huge benefit. Absolutely a huge benefit. If video seems scary, just remember that a video is just 30 pictures in 1 second. Right? That's it. It's still photography. Okay, that's a bad word. It remains to be photography. It's not still photography, it's moving photography. You get what I mean. It's still photography, right? You are still using the same device. You still have to light your subject. You still have to think about composition. You still have to think about everything that you think about in a still photo. But yes, there are extra layers to it. Now you have to consider sound as well. You do have to consider that they're going to move, and so this position that they're in right this second, if they change a little bit and suddenly the lighting goes off or whatever, then that doesn't work, so you got to work around that. Lighting is different in the sense that it's constant lighting instead of strobe lighting. So if you're a strobe photographer, if you really enjoy shooting studio strobes, you really have to change your mindset. If you're more natural light or you work with constant lights, then it's a much easier transition. But those are technicalities, right? The end of the day, the most important part, lighting, composition, subject matter, telling a story. Right? That's what we're doing with our cameras, telling a story. One of you said you were a storyteller. That's what I call myself. I'm a photographic storyteller, not a photographer. I'm a storyteller. And it's still the same tools, just a little bit of a different shift in mindset. So do we benefit? Absolutely. It's just like my thought process of by doing different types of photography, one type of photography benefits from every other one that I do. I feel it's the same thing here. Right. Every time you pick up the camera to do a still image, some of the work that you did on video enters into the equation. When I do video, some of the work that I do on still enters into the equation. So it absolutely helps helps to evolve you all the way through. Just don't forget and don't do this when you're shooting video, and you're good. It's rule number one. So let's see. Can they be overworked creatively? I don't think so. I think it's an expansion of your creativity. You become more creative by doing it. You're not being overworked by doing it, by trying to do both. It can be overwhelming. It is a lot to learn, especially when you're first getting started on it and you think, okay, it's, you know, I've got a camera that shoots video. It's got a red button on it, so I can shoot video. But again, you do have to consider sound, and things do change a bit, but it's not the end of the world. It's actually the beginning of a really exciting one. So it's fun. I do probably 50% video, 50% still now. And it depends on what the clients want. And in fact, yesterday I just did a real estate thing, and the client didn't ask for a video. We didn't even discuss video. I shot stills, but while I was there, I also shot video. And I am going to, when I deliver to the client, I'm going to show them the video that I did. And it's nothing crazy. It's just, you know, simple pans of each room. But I'll assemble those together into a simple little couple-minute long video montage, put some nice music behind it. And I'll say, hey, if you want this, you can have it for X dollars. This is an extra thing that I did. If you'd like to use it, you can pay for it. If you don't want to use it, no harm, no foul. That's fine. But it gives me something else to sell to the client. So it's just one more option. Sometimes they hire you for stills and they end up what they really need is video. Sometimes they think they need video. What they really need are stills. You just have to get to know the client, work with them, see what it is they're trying to achieve, and maybe they need both. And you can help to do that. But if they come to you saying, I need video and stills, and you can only do stills, you're turning business away, and that's never good. So learn both. You need it. Absolutely. Any questions, follow-up questions on that? You guys are so quiet. Why is everybody so quiet? This is the after lunch crowd. Skyy, we got to start doing this class at 9 a.m. when people are awake.
They're not awake at 9 a.m. either.
Okay, 10 o'clock at night? Is that when you guys are? When's a good? When are college students awake these days? All right, let's move on. Live category. Robin said, I really enjoy looking at your photo moments videos and how you have integrated a way to communicate and interact with your audience on a very normal basis. I'm interested in how you got them started and how they benefit your creativity, flow, and general practice of your craft. Excellent question. The photo moments is actually just a year old now. We had our 1-year anniversary show Tuesday of this week, so just a few days ago, which is kind of hard to believe. There's over 200 shows up. I do it every weekday at 9:30, barring holidays or me just not feeling like doing it. No, I mean, I almost always do it. It's very, very rare that I miss one. And it started off as kind of on a lark. It was one of these things where Facebook had, right now it's a YouTube show, but it started off as a Facebook show. Facebook had started doing live video. They just opened it up to everybody. And I thought, there's been too many of these really cool things that come and go, and I don't jump on it soon enough. So this one's brand new. I'm jumping in. I'm going to figure out what to do. Came up with a concept for the show, called it PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, and just started it. And the very first show that I did was from my phone in a car in Santa Monica when I was on my way to photograph my godfather, who was going to be passing away soon. And so it was kind of an emotional, weird first photo moment, but I committed to doing this thing starting on this date, and I'm doing it. And it just evolved from there. And sometimes I've got 2 weeks worth of content lined up. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And sometimes an hour before the show starts, I'm going, what am I going to talk about today? What am I going to talk about today? I'll look around my studio, go, ooh, okay, I haven't talked about this thing yet. All right, this is what I'm talking about. Or I haven't talked about this kind of technique yet. That's what I'm going to talk about. So sometimes it's really planned out, and sometimes it's totally spur of the moment. But now it's evolved to this point where this is the set. This is how it's set up. I do a lot of live broadcasting, a lot of training from this environment right here. And it's essentially plug and play. I mean, everything is turned on here, ready to go. It's just a few clicks to get a show live. So it's not like it's a big production to do it. Obviously, it couldn't be since I'm doing it every day. And I've been building it up with the hope. The hope is that one day it'll get big enough. I'll have enough followers on YouTube where there's enough ad revenue coming in that it can actually fund the production of a much bigger version of the show, meaning things like I can go somewhere, I can get on a plane, fly to some part of the world to photograph some event or something and build a series of shows around that experience in that event. But obviously that takes money, and short of self-funding it, I need the show to fund itself. So that's what we're working towards. And I figure it'll be about 2 years, 2 to 3 years, but I'm giving it a good 2 years to see how it goes and see how the revenue builds up. And it's definitely off on a good start. And so we'll see where it goes. But ultimately, if it could get to that point where I can make enough money just from the ad revenue, so we're talking about needing at least 100,000 subscribers. That's kind of from my back of the napkin math, about 100,000 subscribers will provide enough funding to do the kind of things that I want to do, to start doing the kind of things I want to do. And then from there, sky's the limit. It can just keep growing if people want to follow you. And that seems like a lot, but it's interesting. You look at some photographers who have really big followings, and those numbers are not unrealistic at all. It's just a case of continuing to grow the market, continuing to produce videos that people actually want to see, and hopefully getting enough followers that sort of thing happens. It'd be great if that could become a primary part of my job. If I could do the PhotoJoseph's photo moment and do my education for Linda, and that would provide all the income that I needed and then some, that would be great. And then any other clients that come along are gravy. That would be a really good position to be in. So, working towards it.
How many followers do you have right now for that?
I went from, so it started on Facebook. Like I said, we transitioned to YouTube about maybe 5 months ago now, because Facebook just didn't have the infrastructure, the back-end infrastructure that I wanted. It wasn't doing the quality that I wanted. It doesn't have the discovery. It doesn't have the keywording technology. It's just there's so much harder to find anything on Facebook after it's happened. Whereas YouTube, it's all about finding old videos. They have this whole system set up where when you search for something, it gives you related content. You watch a video, it shows you the next one, what a recommended video. So there's a lot of really good stuff. It's Google after all. They kind of know how to do this thing. And so I started there, like I said, 4 or 5 months ago. I'll call it 5 months ago. And in 5 months, I went from 0 to 6,000 subscribers. And there was a couple of spikes in there. So the 1,000, that was the first big goal. That took seemingly forever to get to 1,000. And then 5,000 was the next big goal. And we hit that about whatever it was, a month ago or so. And now the next big goal is 10,000. And then the next one will be 50,000. So there's exponential growth. But that's the hope. That's the plan. A good friend of mine who does similar things to what I do, but he doesn't do live shows. He just had just did a show celebrating 50,000 followers. And he's been doing it for 3 years now. So that's awesome. That's really, really great. Now, the one difference there is he needs more followers than I do to make the same amount of money, because he only produces 2 or 3 videos a week. I'm producing 5 a week. So obviously, the math does itself there. Any more questions on that?
How much do you make from YouTube? Like when you do that, I know that's part of the revenue stream is they put ads on there. How do they figure that out?
How did they figure it out?
Well, how do you know how much? Like you said, you need to have 100,000 followers.
Yeah. So I'm doing that math based off of knowing what the revenue is every month. Roughly. I mean, I get a check right every month, so I know how much I made this month. I can go back and look at how many views I had over the last 30 days. I mean, I can look this up at any point. I can say, okay, the estimated, there's an app you get, or you log on the website, and it says your estimated revenue for the last 30 days is this. This is how many views you've had the last 30 days. So just do the math, divide that, and go, okay, that means 0.003 cents per view, or whatever the heck it is. And then I go, okay, well, if I want to make, I think I need this much money, X dollars, well, do the math, and you come up with how many subscribers you really need. And it's more how many views you need, but they're very correlated. Obviously, the more subscribers, the more views you have. So, yeah. So it's just a math game. There are plugins that I have that you can use that you can look at anybody's channel and it'll give you a revenue estimate, but it's hysterical how wide the range is. You'll look at somebody's video and it'll say estimated revenue for this video is $100 to $8,000. What? How do you have that big of a variance? So it's a huge spread. So using those plugins is not much of it doesn't give you much of an idea. But when I look at my own and I go, okay, I made this much, and I look at my channel and it says your range is from here to here, and I know that I was right in the middle. Okay, well, now I can look at somebody's channel who's got 100,000 subscribers, who's got 1 million subscribers, and I can look and see the estimates for their revenue and put it right in the middle and go, okay, well, when I hit this point, I can expect to make that much money, give or take, and that's enough, or that's the goal that I'm going towards. That's basically how that works. So you don't really know. That's the problem with YouTube. You just don't really know. So you got to make sure you're making enough that it doesn't matter if it goes down. So, all right, let's see here. Then we get into personal work. Grabbing the wrong mouse. Keep going to personal work here. Personal work. Rosie, Morgan, Elvis, and Gabby. All right, let's start with Rosie's question. After looking at your website, I became very interested with your participation in the Beauty After Breast Cancer book project. I'm very curious to know how you became involved with the photo series, considering your different photographic styles. Okay, so that's a really fun story. Interesting story, not fun. I got involved with the book because I was introduced to the person who was the principal behind the book. Caitlin Carey's her name. I was introduced to her by a mutual friend. I was buying a couch, and she had a couch, so that's how we met. And we're sitting down chatting, and she says, hey, obviously I know you're a photographer. I'm working on this project, Beauty After Breast Cancer. I'm going to be starting this book pretty soon. I'm going to be bringing on a photographer for, I think she wanted to do 33 think it was 33 or 32 subjects she wanted to do. I'm going to bring in a photographer for each one of those. Would you like to do one of those pictures? I said, yeah, sounds like fun. Great, let's do it. And we talked more and more about the project, and for a variety of reasons, including how hard it would be to find that many photographers, especially in this town. And I had a very close personal friend who was going through breast cancer treatment at this exact time. So I was very personally connected and involved with this situation. I said, well, why don't I do all the pictures? Why don't I become the photographer on it? And so she loved the idea. And so we came to a financial arrangement as far as a profit share on the book. I didn't make any money on it up front, didn't get paid anything up front. In fact, my last royalty check, I have just broken even on my expenses, not including my time at all, but my expenses as far as hiring assistants, travel, whatever else stuff I had to pay for. I've just broken even, and the book's been out for, a year and a half or something now. So it's not like, you're certainly not doing it for the money. But I wanted to, like I said, I was involved personally, had this relationship with someone who's going through it, and so it was very important to me at the time. And so I decided to do the project. And the goal was to make a environmental portrait of each and every person, each and every subject in the book, tell their story through the pictures, and then the words that go along with it, of course, tell their story through the words, and the pictures from my side of things. So that's how that came together. And it's great. We're super proud of the project. Came out beautifully. Really, really happy with it. The book is phenomenal, and it's selling reasonably well. And Caitlin, who's the principal on it, it's now her big part of her role is now getting it out there and selling it more and more. So, we'd love to do a second edition sometime if that becomes a possibility, but who knows? Does that answer all your questions about it, Rosie?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
I wanted to know your involvement. I thought it was beautiful.
Skyy, can you repeat it? She's too far away. I couldn't hear.
She thought it was a beautiful book, so she just wanted to know more what your involvement in it was and how you got started in it.
Cool. Yeah, that was it. That's how it happened. I'm thrilled to have been a part of it. It was a very rewarding, very personally rewarding book, project to be in. Morgan says, I really enjoyed your guest book and sculpture series. How often do you shoot more personal work, and what is your creative process like when thinking about a new series? Okay, so first part of the question, well, not really the question, but the guest book and sculpture series. The guest book series, I haven't really been doing the guest book series lately. I don't know, I probably should some more, but it started off as just this fun thing. People walk into the studio for whatever reason. It could be the UPS man. I go, oh, let me take your picture. And every shot was done with the iPhone, with the Hipstamatic app. It's just a combination of the lens and the filter and kind of this vintagey, crappy black and white look. And then I print out these little prints. And the other side of this wall here is covered in those prints. And it's just a fun thing to do. And I just kind of stopped doing it. I don't know. You get bored of it. But it was fun. It was a fun thing to have. And the sculpture series, that one, Skyy, have you shown them your book?
No, I don't think so. No.
So the sculpture series is Skyy's fault, actually. I blame her completely.
She doesn't share it.
Because I don't want them to be influenced by my work. I think they have to develop their own voice. And if they see, a lot of times professors show their work, and then all the student work looks like their work.
Well, we're almost leaving. So.
I can show it to you now. Okay, I will show it to you now. You're
going to have to get the book out. You're going to have to get it out. So the sculpture series was very much influenced by her book. It was, when you see her book, the photographs of the sculptures, when I saw that, I had this idea in my head that I wanted to do something like that, but with live human forms. Sorry, I have to leave this on because anyway. Sorry, and it was just this idea mulling around in the back of my head. I would like to photograph the human body in a way that looks like they're photographs of sculptures, not photographs of people. And it was just this thing sitting around in the back of my head. And it was almost 20 years before I finally did it. Part of it was a combination of just the funding needed to do it. Part of it was the technology, being able to do things the way that I wanted to. And I finally was able to realize that vision. I guess it's been quite a few years now since I did it. But it wasn't nearly 20 years from her book till when I did these photos. And the goal of it, and I feel like I was successful in this, especially on some more than others, but when you look at the prints, and these are printed huge. These are 30 by 40 or 40 by 60 inch prints. These are huge prints. They're mounted on acrylic. They're black and white, metallic, mounted on acrylic. They're gorgeous, gorgeous prints. And they're shot medium format digital. They're all upscaled to be 300 DPI. The treatment of it removed any trace of digital life to it at all. You look at it, it looks like a photograph of a sculpture. The human your wrinkles, hairs all removed, making the skin look incredibly, impossibly smooth. Again, looking more like marble than like human flesh. And that was the inspiration behind it, and just it was beautiful. I was super happy with the way it came out. Never sold enough prints to make any money on it, but hey, not always about the money. Sometimes it's just about the personal project, and it was a super fun project to work on. So that was that. And so that's how that came up. In general, it says, what is your creative process like when thinking about a new series? There's no process. It's just a case of some idea starts bouncing around in my head and eventually won't let go, and that idea has to turn into something actually real that happens. I've got an idea now that I want to do, that I think I want to do. It's still bouncing around back there. It'll probably be a while before anything happens with it, if it does. But that's just how it is. Sometimes you come across something one day and you go, oh, that'd be kind of a cool picture. This one, in this case, is actually a video project. That'd be kind of a cool video project. Every once in a while you think about it, and then you're doing something and it comes back to your head again. And you go, yeah, that would be good. And you start working through more, well, how would I do this? How would I do that? And just start building the project. And it could take years before you actually do something about it, but that's okay. That's personal work. You get paid to do the commercial work where you have to come up with a creative solution in a fixed amount of time and deliver on it. Personal work, there's no deadlines. You do it when you want to do it and when you have time to do it and because you want to do it. If you're bored with it, then you don't do it because you're not letting any clients down. It's just you and your own thing.
Yeah, just is there a way to know if your idea is good or not, or is it just you feel like you need to do it for yourself more than if it's going to be successful or not? Yeah,
when it comes to personal projects, you can't give a shit what anybody else thinks about it, right? This is for you. If you want to do it, then you should do it, right? It doesn't matter if nobody else ever wants to see it. You might not ever even show it to anybody else. I've done tons of work that nobody's ever seen, not because I'm not proud of it or not because I don't know, no particular reason. It's just whatever. I did it for myself. I learned something while doing it. I will apply that knowledge, that learning, that understanding to a future project, to a future client. But there's no need to show this work to anybody. I just did it for me. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And if you have an idea that you want to create something, by all means do it. And there's nothing even saying you have to finish it. And not, obviously you want to finish projects, don't quit everything you start. But if you have an idea on, I want to create this imagery of this thing, I want to do this, and then you get partway through and go, okay, you know what, I've learned what it is I wanted to learn. Sure, I could finish it, but now it's feeling repetitive, or I'm no longer interested, it's bored. Then throw it away. Who cares? As long as you learn something from it. But yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a good idea or not. If you want to do it, it's a good idea. And if it sits in the back of your head for a long time and keeps coming up at you, then it's probably a pretty good idea.
Thank you.
Sure.
How do you find, because you've been out there for over 20 years.
Hey, lighten up.
How do you find the balance of doing your professional work and doing these projects, like what Morgan's talking about, and you're saying, just do it. How do you find that balance? Because I also know you have kids. So how do you fit all that in and make that all work and still make a living as a professional photographer? What words of wisdom can you give these guys about doing that?
Sleep less, drink more coffee. You like that, right? Fortunately, I don't need to sleep a lot. I usually sleep probably 5 hours a night is about it. Usually, I start my day pretty early, and I love what I do. I love working, so I work a lot, and it's because I want to, not because I have to. Not because obviously I have to work. Obviously, got to make money, but I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to. Sure, there are times where you end up more busy than you'd like doing client work and you don't have time to do personal stuff, but you at the same token, you really love those moments because lots of client work doesn't always come in, right? There are times when you're going, I don't have any client work, what am I going to do? And when you don't have that steady paycheck, then it's a big deal. I do actually, the way I've structured my business, I do actually draw a steady paycheck off of the business. So I am an employee of my own company, and I do get a paycheck and pay taxes just like everybody else who works a regular job does. But if there's a bad month, the first paycheck to get cut is mine, right? I can't cut my assistant's paycheck because I didn't bring enough work. That's not fair. So, it still is that living month to month idea of I've got to keep bringing in the money, but you bring in enough big jobs, there's enough of a buffer. You don't have to worry about it so much. So when those free moments come up, you're not worried, you're not scared, but then you can still go, okay, well, I've got some time now. I'm going to go work on this personal project. So I don't know, but as far as how you do time, it's just, I don't know, time management. You know, we all have the same number of hours in a day. I'm not any different than anybody else in that regard. Like I said, maybe I sleep less, but that's about it. If you treat it like a 8-hour-a-day job, and when you go home, that's it, you're done working. You get up in the morning, you don't do anything for work. You go into the office or the studio, whatever, at 8 or 9 o'clock. You work till 4 or 5, 6, and whatever the hours are, and then you go, I'm done. That's you're not owning it. You're not doing this for the passion of it. Then it just becomes a job. But I'm working constantly, and not in a way that I don't enjoy the work. I'm working constantly because I want to. I'm looking at email. I'm looking at social media first thing in the morning. I'm watching videos that other people have put up from the very earliest hours of the day. And I spend time with my family, have breakfast, get the kids to school, that sort of thing, and then go to work and do a solid work day. And then try to knock off in the afternoon, the evening, and do stuff with the family. Sometimes go back to work late in the evening. Sometimes I'll come back into the studio. 8, 9 o'clock at night, I'll come back in here. I'll be in here for a few more hours and then go back home again. Fortunately, they're really close, so that helps. But I try not to do that. I want to try and have a somewhat normal family life and be home in the evening with the family. But sometimes you either got too much work, or there's just something you've got to work on. This is super important to me. I need to work on this right now. Or you get a creative bug and you go, I got to go. I got to do this. I have to go work on this. And everything's a balance, but the work's got to get done. And you got to love doing it.
It's passion.
Passion. Passion's a very good word for it. If you have no passion, go work at McDonald's. This is a career for people with passion. It's not a career for people who want to get rich. It's a career for people with passion who really enjoy what they're doing. And if you don't make a lot of money, that's okay. That's okay. It has to be okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Where were we? Elvis. Elvis says, out of all the different things you do, which one do you enjoy the most and why? Well, that's tough. Right now, the thing I'm enjoying most is my Photo Moment show. I'm really, really loving it. It's the expense to revenue stream is completely imbalanced, but I'm working on getting it the other way. And I love it. It's fun to do. I look forward to it every day. I love the live interaction with my audience. I love that I can look at my chat room and have dozens or hundreds of chats going on. Sometimes there's dozens or even hundreds of people watching live, all interacting. And it's all in virtual real time, and it's super, super fun to do that. It's just it's affirming, it's entertaining. Some of the people that are watching have nothing to do with professional photography. They have day jobs doing completely other things. They just really enjoy photography. So they find a way in their day to be there. Maybe they're at work and they're sneaking off on another screen. Maybe they just take a break from work for that hour. But to get those same people coming back all the time is really, really cool. And then, of course, the new faces coming in. And it's a global thing. When I did my 1-year anniversary, just on Tuesday, I made a point. We actually did a live. It was a Google Hangout, so everybody could call in live. And so it was a complete madhouse, but it was hysterical. And I asked everybody, I wanted to know, where are you calling in from? And so it was 9:30 in the morning here in Pacific time. And I had people from all over the U.S., of course. I had people in Ireland, England, Germany, India, and Australia. In Australia, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, all calling in live. And it's like, this is so freaking cool. That's fun. So I love that. I love it. So that right now, that's my favorite thing to do right now, just because it's a lot of fun. And I get to shoot, I shoot for it. Okay, people are asking about, they want to know how something works in a camera. How do you do this? Or a recent one came up someone wants me to talk about high-speed flash sync. Great. Okay, so I got to figure out how to do that, but the challenge is doing it live, right? I could go out in the studio, shoot a bunch of high-speed sync pictures. Okay, great. So I got that. I go outside, shoot a bunch of high-speed sync pictures. Okay, got that. And then just do a slideshow. But that's too easy. Right? Or I could go out and shoot a whole video and then edit it, but that takes too long. So I got to figure out how to do it live. So that means I got to roll this studio outdoors so I can really show the benefit of it. Here we are in full sunlight. I'm going to make the background go dark by doing high-speed sync. Here's how it works. Looking through the camera, I've got it set up so that people can see through my camera. So I just got to take this studio, move it outside, which is super fun, and we'll absolutely do it. It's one that'll take me a little bit longer to really figure out exactly how I'm going to do and squeeze it into a half-hour show live, unedited, which is always the challenging part, but that's what it is. So it's fun. I love it. So there you go. There's the answer to your question. That photo moment thing is just super fun right now. And I can't wait to make it bigger and better. Gabby, any questions on that thing? Gabby says, what makes you feel most fulfilled as a photographer? You say your favorite thing to shoot is something new. Very true. What is the most challenging thing or project that you've gotten to shoot? Yeah, I was trying to think of that. I don't know. What makes you feel most fulfilled? Making clients happy. Customers come to me, clients come to me, potential clients come to me with a challenge, a problem. They don't know how to achieve this. How do I help them do this? And figuring out what that is and having them walk away happy. That's super awesome. That makes me really happy. I had a client recently. This wasn't technically any kind of a challenge, but it was a very interesting situation. It's funny actually. How much time do we have here? We'll check the time here. Yeah, we're good. Fellow calls me up, very thick accent, very hard to understand on the phone. He's talking something about pictures and a wedding in some other part of the world and like somewhere in the Middle East, and I'm going, I think this is a scam. I've gotten these before. Oh, I want you to shoot my wedding. It's like 500 miles away from you, but that's okay. I really love your work. I want you to come shoot it. I'm going to pay you double your normal rate. I want you to do this. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to send you the money now. I'm also going to send you an extra $10,000 so you can pay the floor. I'm from out of country. I'm going to have you send you the money. You can pay the florist and you can pay the wedding organizer. Is that okay with you? No, scammer, go away. You guys know this scam?
Yes, this was a new one that was just on, not a new one, but recently there was a scam going around.
Yeah. So I figured it was one of those. And I'm about to tell the guy to take a hike, and he says something else. He says something else and made me think, maybe he's actually legit. So I said, look, why don't you come into the studio and let's talk. If a guy actually shows up in the studio, then he's clearly for real. So he does. He comes in. The story is he's a doctor. He's from Jordan. Yeah, that's right. He's from Jordan. He's a doctor. He's fully legal here, of course. I mean, he's employed here at the local hospital. He's not a citizen, but he's got a green card. His his wife was fiancée, of course. Now wife is still in Jordan. They were married when he went there in November, I think, of last year. They had the actual wedding, a small wedding, not a big fancy formal thing, but the actual official wedding. Then he came back to the U.S., and then his plan was to go back there now, and this is now a couple of months ago, but to go back there now for the big party. But because of the current political climate, he did not feel that this was a good idea. He felt that he may not be able to get back into the country, even though he's a legitimate green card holder. And y'all know what I'm talking about. So he said, I can't go. My wife is there, her family, my family, they're all there. They're going to have this huge party, and I can't go. So I need a picture, I need a video, I need something. And so we ended up shooting a series of stills, and he sent those out there, and this is super, super last minute, super fast deadline, so that they printed out a couple of big prints and put them up. So there's, here's him, right? So nice formal portrait. And then we shot a video of a speech that he gave to his wife, to their family, to his family, and all done in Arabic, and done the whole thing just giving this speech to his loved ones that they could play there. And we shot it in here. We replaced this backdrop with a huge print of a particular temple that he wanted in there. So big print. It looked kind of like a newscast, but we had such a fast deadline. There was no time to set up a new studio. So I was like, look, this is what we got. We got the print in place, shot him here. He scripted it. He did it on we did it on a teleprompter so that he could go for the same thing. The first, dozen takes were terrible. And I don't understand the words that he's saying, but you can tell by the intonation, you can tell by the expressions on his face. Like, dude, you got to work this harder. You got to put some emotion into this. Come on. And we worked together for several hours late into the night. And then we finally got a take that was just beautiful. Lots of emotion, lots of energy to it. Finally, that's it. Put it together that night. The next morning, shipped it off, emailed it off, whatever. And so they could play it at the event. And those kind of challenges was so cool and very fulfilling, because this poor guy, a crappy situation. He's completely legal, but feels like if he leaves the country, he's not going to be able to come back in. He won't be able to get to work on Monday, and that would kind of be a problem. So to be able to help someone like that was a really cool experience, really cool thing to be able to do. So long story about one of those little rewarding things, but those kind of things come up, and they're really rewarding. And if you can make a little bit of money doing it too, then that's very nice as well. Most challenging thing or project I've gotten to shoot, I don't know. Everything's a challenge for its own reasons. This is a challenge for the tight turnaround and figuring out how to coach someone speaking in a language you don't understand, hoping that you're getting it right. It's just crazy stuff. All right. Last question from Alyssa. This is in the local category. Alyssa says, I saw on your website that you're a member of the Ashland Chamber of Commerce. What would you say the biggest benefit of being a member is? getting your name out there, just getting known. This is a really small town. It's a population 20,000 in the city. It's tiny. And so for me, being involved with the local community that way is beneficial because I can go into probably every other business in town. I walk in and I know somebody who's working there or I know the owner. Walking down the street, I'm always seeing people that I know. And as someone who's selling my business to my product to local businesses, the more they get to know me, the better that is for my business. Now, truth be told, I don't do a whole lot of local work because of what most people are willing to pay. It's under what I'm willing to charge. And so I end up not doing a whole lot of local work, but it's helpful to still have those relationships and those chances come up, those occasions come up when they do actually want to spend the money to get something of the caliber that I'm able to provide. Then they go, okay, we know where to go. We're going to call Joseph. And that's it's really all about the relationships, building the relationships and keeping the relationships. And it's fun. It's just fun to get to know people locally. So there you go. Hey, that's all the questions.
Yeah.
You guys are still very quiet. Wow. It's like the golf clap. I got a golf clap. That's good. Come up closer. I can't hear you from back there. The microphone's barely picking you up.
Since you shoot such a wide array of things, what does your equipment look like?
Okay, so I'm actually sponsored by Panasonic, which helps. So I shoot almost entirely Lumix, and I've got a bunch of cameras. And the nice thing about Lumix is you can shoot, it does stills and video equally well. And so this is, as far as the camera itself goes, this is primarily what I'm shooting. A wide array of lenses, just depending on what you need, obviously. And then lighting, I shoot with, for studio work, for still photography. My lights are all Pro Photo. Small strobes are the Lumix strobes, of course, for little on-camera ones. But the big lights are Pro Photo. I've got a ton of modifiers that are from all different companies, Westcott and everybody else. When it comes to this kind of stuff, I know it's hard to buy the really good stuff when you're just starting out because obviously it's expensive and it's very tempting to buy the cheaper stuff because you can get a lot more stuff for cheap. And I've certainly bought a lot of cheap stuff in my time, but I will tell you the same thing you've heard a million times. Try and buy the better stuff. It will last you longer. I've got stuff out there that maybe I paid twice as much for, but it's 20 years in, it still works. Whereas if I bought the cheaper one, it would have been broken within a year or two. So I know it's hard. Believe me, I know it's really hard to do. And don't go into credit card debt buying stuff, but you'll save your money, borrow gear, rent gear. You can always rent gear. Remember that. When I started out, that was not an easy option. That renting gear meant going to Sammy's, putting down a deposit, and driving home with a camera or a lighting kit or whatever it was. Which, if you didn't live near a Sammy's, what are you going to do? Now you can go online, go to lensrentals.com, borrowlenses.com. You can rent just about anything for really cheap. And now you've got that camera, that lens, that light, that whatever that you need for your shoot. So don't be afraid to rent. Renting is a fabulous, fabulous way to do things. The video lighting, I've got I use a series of LED lights from a company called Felix. They're super high quality, super high end LED lights that are color tunable, very, very high quality. A CRI is called a color rendering index, the very high quality CRI that comes out of those. More expensive again than your average LED lights, but those are my really good premium ones. And then I have a bunch of other lights from a company called Generay that are more kind of broad, the kind of things that are lighting this studio in here. More fixed use. These don't get moved around all over the place. These sit in one place, so they don't have to be super great quality. Excuse me. And then I don't know. Computers, I'm all Mac based. They're everywhere. Mac and iOS. Obviously I worked at Apple for a while, so I'm a little bit biased, but yeah, everything's Apple based in here. I don't know. What else do you want to know? Any other gear questions like that?
What do you carry? Because when you were shooting with Seal, how did you carry everything?
Okay, so when I was shooting Seal, I was shooting Canon. That was quite a while ago now. That was 2009. My God, it's been a while. And so I was shooting Canon then. I carried, it was one of the reasons I was very glad to go mirrorless, much smaller, lighter weight gear. I was carrying so much gear on my back that I ended up with a very, very bad back at one point and couldn't move and had to get some medical assistance while on the road. I really hurt myself. But while I was doing that shoot, like on the show floor and moving around shooting, it's a very specific environment. I had who makes it? I can't remember the name of the company now, but you've seen these straps that are kind of a sling strap where the camera's over your bandolier style and the camera slides along the strap. It's not attached, the strap isn't attached. You know what I mean? So I had one of these that was double. So I had a camera on each side because I didn't want to be changing lenses, at least as much as I could avoid it. Obviously, you're surrounded by 6,000, 10,000, 30,000 people, whatever. You don't want to drop a lens. It'd be bad. Or changing lenses on the catwalk. Bad idea. You don't want to do that. So 2 bodies covering a range of lenses. And then I also had a couple other lenses that were strapped onto me in a belt pack. Think Tank, I think, makes it. Yeah, it's a Think Tank belt pack with pockets for your lenses that can be zipped up. So it's secure. They're not going to bounce out if you're running around. And had quite a nice little setup where if I had to change lenses, take a lens off, there was an empty pouch to drop that into, pull the lens that I'm pulling out of the other pouch and attach it. And obviously got very good and quick at knowing where was what for that. And but everything's strapped to my body and off I go. And that's while shooting. And then obviously there's a pile of gear that's sitting back in the room somewhere. But yeah, that's kind of how I managed that specifically. Padded pants with knee pads in them. That was one of my big wins on that tour. I found these pants that they're construction worker pants, and they have big, like, and by big I mean about that. Sorry, like that big memory foam knee pads that slide into the pants. There's a pocket on the inside of it, and then the pants have a lot of big pockets. I'm kind of like a photographer's vest, but they're photographer pants. I mean, they weren't for photographers, but were perfect, huge pockets. And these knee pads, it was fantastic because and they were kind of a plasticized knee, so kneeling down and someone spilled beer, whatever, was never a problem, right? I could drop to my knees, not worry about getting hurt, not worry about what I was kneeling in. And it was the greatest tool that I brought on that trip were these stupid pants with built-in knee pads. the things you don't think about.
It saves you, right? When you're, it's funny.
Oh yeah, and I'd spend 20 minutes hiding in a corner on stage in the shadows, always dressed in all black so I can move around as stealthily as possible. I had complete permission to go up on stage if I wanted to. I mean, I could walk out right next to him if I wanted to, but I didn't never wanted to do that. But I would sneak around the back, hide behind the drummer. I'd sit somewhere in the shadows waiting for that shot. And often that means you're sitting on your knees for a long period of time, just waiting. Camera up to your eye, waiting. And you can't be complaining about your knees at that point. So, yeah, that's good fun. Any other questions?
So you say you've done this live show for about a year now. At what point did you feel like you got to the point where you could speak eloquently and be able to get all your information across without hesitations? I can tell you speak very well. So at what point did that really take over, where you're not pausing every 2 seconds? And it's challenging, right? It's a live broadcast. You can't edit it. So. Right. How do you get past that, I suppose?
Practice. And look, I fooled him. He thinks I speak well. How nice. It's just practice. And like I said, I've been doing teaching, education, standing up in front of people since I was in college. So for a very long time now. And it's just something that I loved. Obviously, if you have stage fright, if you can't get out 2 words in a row in front of people, not good, right? Not good if you're live on stage in front of them, not good if you're live on camera, just not good. If you watch most YouTube videos, it's cut. And it's because they paused for half a moment while they thought about what they're going to say next, and they just edited that out. And so it looks like this really fast-paced, rapid talking thing, but the fact is it probably took them half an hour to get out a 2-minute sentence. And you're right. When you're doing it live, you don't have that option. And the how is just practice. It's just doing it all the time. I used to present on stage for Apple, right? So I'd stand on stage doing live presentations in front of thousands of people. And those were rehearsed, right? Those were not scripted, but very well rehearsed. I know exactly what I'm going to do. If I'm doing a software demonstration, I know that I'm going from step 1 to 2 to 3. I know exactly the sequence I'm doing. And I got very comfortable with, very good at just rolling and talking. And a bit of circular breathing, being able to take a breath while you're still talking. And that's not anything I ever formally learned how to do. I just kind of sort of figured it out. And I probably should look it up and find out that I'm not actually circular breathing, but I can talk kind of nonstop. And I don't know how I don't know. It just happens. But it's just practice. You just got to keep doing it. You just really do.
The video class just did an interview project where they had to interview each other. So I think they're even a little more acutely aware of how many pauses and how many likes and ums. And
yeah, yep, like, yep, mm-hmm. Yeah, and watching yourself on camera is a great way to figure that out. And I think I have eliminated all of those likes, ums, us, things out of my vocabulary, those unnecessary words. And I'm very attuned to hearing them from other people. If I hear someone else and they go like, oh, you're driving me nuts. I have a teenage daughter. When she says it, I am relentless. But that's how kids talk. It's so hard to get them to stop doing that. But I've tried very hard on myself to do that. And I know there are still times, and of course, every once in a while you still say like something like, like that was like kind of cool. Okay, maybe not that bad. But every once in a while it does still come out. But I do try very hard not to. But I also listen to myself a lot, and I look for things listen for things that I need to change, need to adjust. And there is one particular thing right now that I'm still trying to identify when I do it. And I'm not going to tell you what it is because maybe you haven't noticed it. But when I listen to myself, I hear it. And it's driving me crazy. And the problem is that when I'm talking, I don't know that I'm doing it. And so I am trying now to actively figure out when I do that and how to eliminate it. But it's a constant work in progress. I've been doing this sort of thing for 20 years, and it's still constantly evolving and changing. But it's just practice. Get in front of the camera. If you just stand in front of a mirror and do it, there's no real feedback. You think you did a really good job, but you didn't. But put yourself in front of a camera and do it, and then watch yourself. And you'll realize just what needs to change and what you're good at. And obviously, take the things you're good at, focus on that, improve that, find the things that you're bad at, and do your best to eliminate them. That's all you can do.
Also, everybody, I think when they get on camera, they have this startling realization of what their voice sounds like. One way, and then when you hear it played back, whether it's just an audio recording or a video recording, I think everyone's kind of a little bit stunned about how they sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten used to how I sound, obviously, and I'm sure in the early days, I didn't like the sound of my own voice, but now I hear it all the time, and I'm hearing myself through headphones, right? So I hear myself as pretty much as you do, so I'm very aware, but then still, like I said, this one little thing that I'm trying to identify and get rid of, I don't even hear it when I say it myself. I only hear it when I'm listening to a recording, and I'm going, I gotta figure this out and get rid of it, But that's just my constant strive towards as close to perfection as I can get.
And you, right now, just going back to like the equipment, you have built yourself this room that you do all your recording in. Mm-hmm. So did you make it a soundproof room, and do you have a special mic that you're using for recording? Because obviously there's a substantial difference. You can hear the quality of it.
Of course. Yeah. So, well, as far as the soundproof part goes, I wish this room was soundproof. What you're looking at right now, I'm in a 10 by 11 foot square room. That's a room inside of a warehouse. I have 1,000 square foot studio space. It's a big empty warehouse. And this room, as well as a bathroom behind me here, is built into it, which is great. This was here before I got here. And the ceiling in here is, 11 feet high or 10 feet or whatever. It's just pretty much a normal ceiling in here, like a normal bedroom. But above that is still my space. The ceiling outside of this room is 20 to 30 feet tall, depending on which end you're on. The problem is that I have neighbors on this side and that side. Now, from this room, that wall is my studio space. So that's silent. I have control over that environment. This wall is my bathroom, so I have control over that. That wall is outside, and that faces a street. So if a truck drives by, I'm going to hear it. There's nothing I can do about that. And that wall is my neighbor's break room, and there's nothing I can do about that. And I would love to build a more soundproof environment in here, but that would require building a completely isolated space, basically a room like this, but it'd be a lot bigger if I was to do this, out in the main studio space that is air gapped, completely separated, isolated from everything else. But then it would have to have a special ventilation system, and there's a lot that would go into it. But it would give me a quieter environment. Right now, I think this has probably been just fine. You probably haven't heard a whole lot of background noise, but it does come in. And when I'm doing a live event like this, I don't really worry about the background noise so much. But if I'm doing a recorded thing for a client and the environment needs to be really, really clean, if there's a noise, I got to do another take. I can't have that background noise creeping in. The room does have acoustic paneling all over it, so big purple foam that's all over the place in here to absorb as much slap back, as much echo as possible. But it's not perfect. It's far from perfect. The lighting is something I kind of custom built in here. And sound on the microphone, I have a variety of microphones depending on what I'm doing. This is the best sounding microphone. This is kind of my podcast microphone. You get the very radio voice. It's a beautiful, beautiful microphone, but it's also this big physical thing that's in the way. And if I come over here, if I go over here, if I go over here, it sounds sounds very different. I really have to be right here to get that sound. And if I'm doing software demos or I'm showing off a camera or something, I can't do this. This can't be in my way. So if I'm just doing a show where I'm talking and I don't need to do stuff with my hands like here, then I'll use this mic. If I'm doing something where I'm going to be moving around a lot more, I'll be on a lav. So I got a wireless mic kit, and then I have a couple of mics. This is the mic that came with it, a Sennheiser pack, which is quite a good mic. But then I have another one that's a really, really high-end small mic that I'll use for higher end productions, recorded productions. So for example, the GH5 training that I'm doing right now, I'm wearing the same shirt for the entire training, right? Because that's a consistent look and I'm recording things out of order. And the microphone for that is completely hidden under the lapel, under the, what's that called? I forget what it's called. The part of the shirt that has the buttons on it. Anyway, it's hidden under there. It's taped into place. It's very, very specifically and precisely positioned, and that's got incredible sound. But then it's also got a backup. I have a boom that normally would be in here that is now out there in the other studio for this setup. So that's a backup sound. So you got dual mics recording at once just in case something goes wrong. So lots of sound is a whole other thing. Like I said, when it comes to video, sound's the next big thing. And it's a lot. There's a lot to learn. That's why you usually hire a sound guy if you're doing a big production. So good fun stuff. Any other questions?
Appear so.
It does not appear so. Alrighty. Well, that was, oh, how funny. So I'm looking at my chat because I'm streaming this live, and one of my regulars, Florian, is watching, and he reminded me, Black Rapid strap. I was trying to remember the name of the strap. Black Rapid. So actually, Florian, the Black Rapid strap is the single one, and then the double one was another company. It wasn't Black Rapid, it was somebody else. I know Black Rapid makes a double one now as well, though. But the Black Rapid strap, that was the one. That's pretty funny. Alrighty. My goodness. Yes, nothing else I need to address here. So yeah, so that's that. No other questions? If not, we'll cut off the live broadcast, and I know you guys want to do a little photocrete.
Yeah.
2:30. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we got it. We'll do kind of a quick one. I want to try and wrap up before 3. But you guys want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, live audience. Bye. Cutting you off now. See you guys later. Thanks for watching, folks.